So I think we need to draw the distinction between classical and modern liberalism yet again, because we are known to have participated in some debates.
Yes.
Where the other side collapsed them. And it's very important to keep them distinct, because they are distinct in very important ways. And I think if I had to reduce the difference in one thing, it would be the place of personal responsibility in each doctrine. I think that's massive. Of course, there are many more distinctions, but I think that this is the key one. The key factor has to do with how classical liberals view human beings as responsible individuals for the most part, whereas in modern liberalism, there seems to be no such thing as personal responsibility for missed opportunities. So let us say this a bit more, let us flesh this idea out. We could say that a lot of the time some people say, don't look past the slogans, and they just look upon the terms used by slogans. And the term equality has been used by a lot of movements, a lot of political movements in history. But they didn't all mean the same thing. For instance, in the ancient times, equality was not equality of wealth. Equality was, for the most part, equality of social status. People were equals when they were sort of citizens, or where they were not slaves. It's a negative term. It's a non-slave, essentially. To be free meant to be a non-slave. So if there was in the antiquity sometimes a conflation between freedom and equality, that was mostly it. Of course, it's much more complex, but that's mostly it. So what I want to say is that if we take this idea of equality, we need to ask ourselves yet again, equality of what? So classical liberals focused a lot on equality of rights. And in the 20th century, there is a sort of flirting with the idea of equality of opportunity. But they never flirted with the idea of equality of results.
Yeah. Equity.
Equity, yeah. They never flirted with that ideal. Now, modern liberals, to a very large extent, are, you could say, welfare state liberals and Rawlsian liberals of the 20th century and afterwards. And they say that they are not in favor of equality of results. In fact, Rawls, in his theory of justice, tries to say that, communism isn't the best system. A sort of market socialism or a property-owning democracy resembles the best system. But at the end of the day, if you look at the movement that has sprung from it, they have a very devious way of engaging in conceptual machinery. If you look at what they're doing the following. They're saying, we don't want equality of results. That's Marxism. We want equality of opportunity. It seems as if they treat them as distinct notions or non-related notions. But what happens in practice is that they treat equality of results as a criterion for equality of opportunity. So wherever you have unequal results, they rush to say that there was inequality of opportunity. And Rawls also had the idea that there is no such thing as desert for actions. And that implies that you're not ultimately responsible for what you're doing. If it's only good luck or bad luck. That's
anyone
the
that appeals
of
to luck has kind of gone awry. You abandon the concept of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You open the door to being a monster, basically.
Well, at the end of the day, that's what he boils it down to.
Well, I hate Rawls.
And a lot of the people they who follow him, they do just that. And to be frank, lots of leftists did that before him. Mm-hmm. And Marxists do the same when they talk constantly about structure and structural relations that affect people. So it's good or bad luck what genes you're born with. It's good or bad luck whether you're born in a good environment or not. And whether you act or not is entirely good or bad luck as far as Rawls is concerned. There's no dessert for action.
Madness. Also, it's not good or bad luck that determines your genes, it's your parents. I mean, luck's not really that involved. I know there's some variance about what genes you can inherit from your parents, but you know, you're not just getting magically these new genes just appearing, other than, you know, mutation and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm making it sound like I'm disproving my own point here. Yeah. But no, there are lots of different ways in which a person can be responsible for their own actions and therefore deserve moral condemnation for them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even if their genes and their environment still, you know, encode them to do something antisocial, most people are aware of what society views as good or not, and they make a choice to do it anyway. It's very rare that someone does something bad and isn't aware that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If it's particularly bad, I suppose, you know, if someone accidentally drops a few crumbs in someone else's house when they're eating a biscuit or something, then, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world. They didn't necessarily intend to do something wrong.
I think with respect to the point you raised about the parents, Rawls would say something like it's a natural lottery. You don't choose your parents. Anyway, and
a lottery is not random anyway.
Which is, I mean, it is sort of, what? Sorry?
A lottery is not entirely random anyway.
Okay.
You know, there's a set number of outcomes. I mean, they're picked somewhat randomly, but it's not perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that essentially the main difference has to do with the place of personal responsibility in the two positions. And there can be such a thing as personal responsibility for failure. In classical liberalism, modern liberals seem to be unable to understand the concept and to accommodate it within their view. And let me just say this back, because I was focusing on this a lot when I was dealing with free will and personal responsibility. It's really important to see how whenever there is a reference to structure, there's an attempt to say that someone wasn't ultimately responsible for their bad behavior, and therefore they shouldn't bear the cost of their bad behavior, because ultimately they were unlucky. And as far as they're concerned, it's 100% bad luck. Now, the weird thing is, and the double standard is, that they do this only for their supporters. When it comes to those who support other positions, they're definitely responsible about a lot of things.
It's funny that, isn't it? Like, you see it where the mainstream media says, hey, Libs of TikTok is responsible for these bomb threats for uploading TikToks of what other people have posted to the internet. Just by exposing what other people have shared themselves, she is responsible for threatening hospitals. Yeah. That's the kind of standard they'll apply to their political enemies, but then when it's, you know, their friends, they're just like, oh, well, you know, they may have embezzled all this money, but they had good intentions, you know, they're in it for the people, they've not lost their cause.
Yes.
That's the kind of example of it. I couldn't think of an actual real world one off the top of my head, but I think it was NBC that were doing that. I'm sure they've done all sorts of horrendous things like that, to be fair though.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.